Ladies, gentlemen, and Haradrim of all ages, now well over a week into Season 4 for Diablo 4, we actually have a fair bit to talk about in terms of the game. Some rumblings going on, a lovely set of patch notes for the first major patch of the season, which is hitting next week, by the way, Tuesday, May 28th, and we also have something left in the game by accident that could be a pretty major hint to an item that is coming sooner rather than later. Starting off with the patch itself then, this is 1.4.1, and we already have the full information on what it contains, so let's just break it down nicely and quickly. It starts with some smaller changes, like telling you that enchanting will remove greater affixes on the actual UI screen, and showing you the armor cap in your character stats sheet so that it is visible in-game. Then the removal of the caches when transmuting masterwork materials, so you just trade for the items themselves, and sort of skip past that part of the process, as well as making masterworking just be unlocked for all characters on your account once it is unlocked for at least one of them. Past that, a very major issue that most people in the endgame are having is just an absolutely massive bottleneck of gold. Enchanting your gear is really expensive, gems are expensive, and masterworking is extremely expensive as well. People have been calling for more sweeping reforms to the economy as a result of all of this, but unfortunately the only change related to gold is a change to the costs of masterworking, specifically up to rank 4 is unchanged, rank 5 to 8 is reduced by about 20%, but then rank 12 is reduced by 75% of its old gold cost. This is a pretty massive reduction at the high end, and it's definitely helpful, but my personal opinion is that this is just not at all enough to fix the current problems. What we need is more gold gain to match current costs, more so than reductions in only slight areas. The reason I say this is twofold. Enchanting is still the same cost as it was before, and it can be pretty nasty in the current system of favoring certain affixes over others, and having to enchant on successful tempered items so it limits it in the first place, so this is just a massive gold sink compared to the current gold farming options that we have. The second is that there is barely any gold cost reduction on anything that isn't upgrade 9 to 12 of masterworking, and there are only two groups of people that really will apply to, at least in a notable amount. The people who just want to get 12 out of 12 on their items, don't care what major upgrades they hit, will never reset and just do that one time, and the people at the very tippity top end of pushing the pit who are just farming for the exact perfect rolls on a 12 out of 12 as well, which requires a ton of RNG to reach. Every single other person at most gets a 20% reduction in general masterworking costs from this, and trust me, the vast majority of us fall into this camp. I think there would be two far more impactful ways of adjusting this. One is reducing the reset cost on masterworking, not just the upgrade cost, because the reset costs 5 million gold, which is now more expensive than the most expensive masterworking upgrade, and that is what makes it a real endgame chase mechanic in my mind, the actual resetting. The other thing they could do would be just, hey, giving us more gold in general. If they want to keep the actual numbers of gold from getting out of hand, which may be why they're avoiding just increasing our gold generation, then what they should do is just reduce the cost of everything across the board, not just this one very specific spot that has little effect on most of the player base. There was some changes for a sorcerer skill enhancement as well as a result of some bug fixes, and a big one here is increased drop rates of scattered prisms both on treasure goblins across all world tiers, and just increased numbers of prisms dropping from world bosses in higher world tiers, with world tier 4 world bosses now dropping 3 prisms each. This is pretty great. Prisms were feeling in short supply due to the sheer amount of gear swapping we did on our journey up to level 100 and the speed of it this season, and while this is less of an issue for most players at this stage, at actually being in the endgame already, this is a change that is more being made to affect the flow of that section of playtime for future seasons, and for players that aren't at that point yet, and one that I definitely think is a very good call to make. Past that, they've changed up item comparisons in-game a bit to make them a bit more readable and reliable, and then they've also done some changes to the Whispers of the Dead bounty to kill Hellborn, specifically while fixing a bug that made it update both from Hellborn disappearing after killing you and from Hellborn disciples in the Maiden of Blood fight. Outside of that, we just have a large section full of bug fixes. Some big ones that can sort of slip through it if you aren't paying attention to it properly are something that we all, myself included, originally interpreted to be a pretty sizable nerf to Bash for Barbarians, as this patch note directly says they fixed Bash, mistakenly counting as a multiplier instead of an additive on the tempering weapon affixes. According to Adam Fletcher, this was a mistake when writing the patch note specifically, and it is in fact a fix to the tooltip. The damage will stay the same in game, and the tooltip will now be updated to say that the damage is a multiplier instead of additive. Or at least I think that's what he's saying here. Honestly, it's a bit disjointed and confusing, but that's how I'm reading it. There were also affixes to make Druid's Wolf skill finally count as a werewolf skill if you have the alpha aspect, and also a fix to the Boulder Druid issues that have been happening since the season launch. Torment Beast in Ice now no longer retains and stacks his debuffs in unusual ways after death, which is something that we talked about a couple of days ago, and now Torment and Dariel's Firebeam will actually show up with the low FX setting on in the graphics menu too, which again, we talked about quite recently. Then the last big changes, they fixed the Eternal Realm items that were bugged when the season released, and then they have also fixed the issue with Resplendent Sparks not dropping from Echo of Lilith. For this season, anyone who has already killed Echo of Lilith at any previous point will just be given a spark when the patch hits, and this includes if you've killed her in previous seasons. Players yet to kill her this season can still get one on their first kill of the season, and in future seasons it will work like that, but this is just to make up for players who have already done their first kill with no reward this season, so they still get a spark. Other than that, there's just a wall of somewhat less impactful bug fixes. I'll show all of them up on the screen so you can pause if you are particularly interested, but those are the main things of note really. Overall, I think the patch is solid. Some other things that could use some fixing, some larger changes to gold would be nice, but this is just the first update for the season, hitting 2 weeks after the season launch, so they are definitely trying to make this work without a doubt. Other than all of that, we just have one other topic really of note today, but it is quite an interesting one, and it's a work in progress item that was accidentally left in the game. This player who posted a picture on Reddit says that they found this unique during Helltide, and since this, various other people have actually mentioned finding the exact same thing, which backs up the original story. That means that in all likelihood, this is in fact an item that was planned either for a mid-season edition or a future season entirely. What's interesting is it obviously has no effect currently, so all we really get is a set of stats that it would have, which obviously also could change. But here it has movement speed, critical chance, crit damage, and vulnerable damage as well on an amulet, and we get the picture and name for the item as well, Eye of the Depths. This does not have a noted class requirement, so theoretically it would be an all-class item, but this is about the limit of what we know about it in general. It's pretty cool to find for sure, and interesting that it's been left in by accident, but it doesn't tell us too much about what to expect from it as an item other than the fact that it could exist. And that just about does it for today then, everyone. Pretty simple roundup for this, just a nice set of patch notes for 1.4.1, the first major patch of the season, a roundup of those and my thoughts on them as well, and then just the unearthing of an unfinished item. I hope you've enjoyed this and of course let me know your own thoughts in the comments down below. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.